So I think we can begin the session now. It's already 9:10, and those who've joined, they should have that advantage of having joined on time. Good morning to all the participants. We've been meeting since yesterday, and I'm sure by now you understand that I'm organizing this FDP on behalf of National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. It's called as NIPER in short, NIPER Hyderabad. So just to give you a brief inputs, those who are new to this organization, this is an organization which institute which offers master's courses in the pharmacy disciplines, pharmacy specializations, and they also started a management course for the pharma students. So that's why I am here as a faculty. I'm a faculty in the Department of Pharmaceutical Management, and we primarily cater to the needs of the workforce of pharma sector, the managerial needs. So all the students who join us are from the B pharmacy background. So that is what makes them different from the regular management students, because they are all from the pharma background. So let's begin today's session. I hope you had good learning yesterday. I was there throughout all the sessions, and the speakers really did a wonderful job in keeping you engaged, and the topics also were very interesting. And I've tried that, I've lined up such speakers for all the 5 days, and I hope you will really have a very good learning sessions over these 5 days. So let us begin today's session. So today I will be talking about so this slide is visible, right, to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so today's session is about perception and impact on individual behavior. And again, these two terms are definitely not new terms. All of us, we have a certain behavior, and then we perceive things in a different way. And we all understand that the perceptions of each one of us differ with respect to it could be a situation, it could be an event, it could be a person, or it could be something that has happened in an organization. So everything that happens around us is perceived by us, and there are different reasons why the perceptions are not common across people. Now, what I perceive looking at a certain activity could be different from what you would be perceiving about the same activity. So, how does this difference come about, and what could be the reasons, and how will that have an effect on the individual behavior, and in turn, how will it affect the organization behavior? So there are certain theories that we will be looking at, and then I will also be asking you certain questions. So I will request all of you to participate, so because that is what makes the learning more enjoyable. Let it not be a monologue, because again it will look like a classroom session for me if I keep talking and there's no response coming from the other end. So even if before I begin the session, now that we are going through this pandemic, COVID-19, and all of us have been affected in multiple ways over the last 1.5 year. And then, as rightly put yesterday, one of the speakers mentioned that teachers had to take the heaviest burden of all all the players in the economy, because they had to suddenly shift from the brick and mortar model to the online model. Some of them were completely new to it. They had to also invest their resources in procuring a laptop, a headphone, and then it also had an impact on their own home settings, which others might not understand. But I mean, most of us are teachers in this setting, and I'm sure that you will also be able to relate to it, because suddenly everything was online, and instead of 9 to 5, we were online, at all time in the day, whether it is 7 in the morning or 7 in the night. We were expected to be very responsive to the students, and then also handle. I hear some background noise. Can you please mute your mic?
Hindi
Sonam Gupta madam, can you please mute your mic? Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the COVID pandemic and how it has been affecting all of us lately. Uh, so I mean, most of us are in the age group where we can take the vaccination. So I just wanted to ask you one question. Have you all opted, taken the vaccination, or is anybody of you having a reservation about actually going in for vaccination?
Actually, still through the first dose, ma'am. Second one is pending. And in fact, we were waiting for the vaccination. Although vaccination is not a foolproof way to ditch the corona, but still it is some precaution at least.
Yeah. So, because the reason why I'm asking you this question is again, it relates to perception. We know of certain cases, or we are doing a study of certain cases where people are reluctant to take vaccination even now. They were reluctant when it was announced, and it continues still. Now, the reluctance is again because of their perception. So, that's the reason why I asked you that question, whether you have been vaccinated. So the perception is, how does it make a difference? Is one viewpoint. Whether I take it or not, I may still end up getting the COVID. And then the other perception is, I'm not ready to, let go of my life because I've got the shot. Because in some cases, it so happened that after vaccination, it really didn't go well, and maybe the person lost their life. So it's all again a perception. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of replies to the question that some of you have registered for vaccination. You're yet to get the first dose. Some of you have taken the first one. Some of you have completed all the both the doses. That's so nice. And then because of the age restriction, we are all waiting when the vaccination will be announced for children also, so that once everybody gets vaccinated, we can come back to our regular classroom mode of teaching. So perception plays a key role in anything that we think about, or decide to do, or any decision that we make. So that's where we will begin. So by definition, perception, it's a process by which the individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to their environment. Now, definitely, the sensory impressions form a major part here, and they come through all the five sense organs that we have: what we see, what we hear, what we taste, how we feel. All these, are the sensors through which we make impressions, and then we make an impression, and we also store it in our mind. So when we come across the same kind of stimuli, sensory stimuli, immediately our brain will remind us the event that happened before, saying that yes, similar perception, similar stimuli was felt earlier, and this is how this is what it resulted in. So we will now the whatever decision we now take will be based on that previous experience that we had. So based on the same stimuli, and then how things turned out then, and so what you should be deciding now. So it's all based on how we process as individuals, how we organize and interpret our sensory impressions, and then how we relate it to the environment that we are surrounded by. So it could be a teaching setup. I mean, it could be an institute which is imparting education. It could be a company, where manufacturing is happening, or a knowledge-based company. And it could the person himself could be different. It could be a teacher, an administrator, or a student, or an audience. A person who's not all the three, but he's still having an eye on how a particular organization is working. So people's, again, this is very important. People's behavior is based on their perception of what reality is, and not on the reality itself. So the reality could be different, but then as I said, each one of us end up perceiving it in a different way because of our own backgrounds, or our own responses to the stimuli that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, and all the experience that we have accumulated over the years that we've been on, we've been here. The world as it is perceived is the world that is behaviorally very important. So when we are looking at individuals now, that we are having an online session, and then even here, as I'm taking a session also, you may be having your own impressions of what are we going to discuss in this session today, how is it going to be helpful for me, or uh, will it be helpful at all. You may have your own thoughts, and you may be coming with your own perceptions, because you might have attended a few other FDPs before this. I don't know what kind of experience you had there. A couple of FDPs that I attended, some of them were taken by a single resource person. Sometimes it is, not very encouraging, but sometimes if the resource person is extremely good, you do enjoy, even if the same person continues to take the sessions over a period of, over a week's time. So we come to, anything that we do come with a preconceived notion. That is how we look at it. Okay, so I had a question for you. Which one was your preferred vaccine for COVID-19? Since all of you, a couple of you got vaccinated, you can type your answers in the chat box.
Ma'am, chat is disabled. I do not know why the messages are not going.
Oh, but
Some
I can
issues this
see
side also.
some
Oh, I was trying to answer in that one also for vaccination, but my
huh.
messages were not.
Okay, then
I don't
we'll
know
have a
why.
chat. I mean, we will talk it over then. That's even better actually. So yeah,
Sure,
I'm
no
reading
problem in that.
Mr. Pradeep Kumar's message here. The main issue of vaccine is that what percent of antibodies against coronavirus developed. I know one of my friends who happens to be a radiologist. When tested after 2 doses, the percentage of antibodies is less than 10%. Okay. Yeah, so that's the reason why I asked you which was your preferred vaccine for COVID-19. Covishield is the answer that I see so far from
Ma'am,
Dr.
good
Joji.
morning. The same
Yes.
happened even when the study was conducted in SGPGI Lucknow. They had
Mm-hmm.
conducted the study research on around 1,000 doctors and the nurses who were given both the doses, and around 700 to 800 did not develop or did not show signs of the antibodies even post
Okay.
vaccination.
Okay. So which vaccine was that?
Ma'am, can I come in?
Yeah, please.
It was, I believe, COVID Shield. That was not clearly mentioned, but they just simply talked about the vaccine.
Okay. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, ma'am.
Someone
Yeah.
else. Yes.
Yes. This is Dr. Maulin from St. Xavier's, Kolkata.
Yes, sir.
See, Covishield, we are told that is well recognized by the world organizations and the countries, and that is from Oxford. Covaxin as the Indian version, and still it is not recognized. So people have the perception, even I do have, a vaccine which is recognized all over, which has got a patent right, will have an effect on us than the vaccine which is produced in India, which does not have a patent, or say in the world there is no recognition. So when such a platform is established, it is very difficult to make up our mind. That I find, certain confusion is being created also in that connection.
Yeah. Very true, sir.
Hello.
Very true. Yes, yes.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah, I can
actually,
hear you.
the problem with vaccine is that whatever the vaccine is available at the vaccine center, you have to take. You don't have any choice. And since India, this Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are not available, and I have heard and I have read this Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine, that is a RNA vaccine, etc. They are having a very good, the antibody, they show very good percentage of antibodies after injecting the 2 doses of that, probably
Okay.
70 to 90%. But in India,
Okay.
we have only two vaccines, that is the Covaxin and Covishield. Whatever will be
Yes.
available in your particular vaccine center, you cannot say that I will take vaccine, the Covishield or Covaxin. You don't have any
Correct,
choice.
correct.
That is
Right,
that.
sir.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
it is
I
compulsory
totally
that you
agree
have to
with
take
Mr.
whatever
Pradeep.
available is that.
What
Yes,
is
yes, sir.
available, we have to take it. There is no choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
true,
You
ma'am.
can
You
choose the
don't have any
hospital
choice
where
at all.
Covishield is available or Covaxin is
Yes,
available.
you
Yes.
have to take. If Covishield
That
is
you can
available, you
do.
have to take Covishield, and you
Yes.
have Covaxin is available, you have to take. You
Right,
can't
right, sir.
say,
Is
Yes.
well, I
there,
won't take Covaxin.
ma'am, that is the practical thing that is happening. Whatever is available, that we have to take. But I have reservations with Covaxin, because which earlier it was not there. I am more inclined to Covishield. Why? Because Covaxin has been, because many universities you see outside in UK and US and all, I've read an article. It says that they will not accept students who have been vaccinated by Covaxin. So they have
Yes,
to
yes.
revaccinate again. So till that time, I thought both options are good. But then if they're returning, that means they are not accepting students. So now, even if they have taken 2 doses, they have to revaccinate themselves again. That means some international standards it is not living up to the expectations or something like that. Maybe some
Right.
research is being done that Covaxin is not as effective as Covishield. So that's what I
The
want
same
to
is
say.
the case with the
Hello.
countries
Yes.
who are
Yes.
not accepting COVID shield also. There are
Oh,
countries who
really?
have their reservations. Yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
countries, if you have
Hello.
got the COVID
Yeah,
shield,
that is there. That
especially
is there.
in Gulf and UAE region, or you can say these MENA region, they are not even
Right.
accepting COVID shield. There has been the statement about it.
Okay.
Hello.
In
Hello.
Yes,
that
Dr.
Actually,
case,
the
Pradeep.
that
problem is
can
that
be, in that
the
case, that
problem.
can be more political issues. So maybe Covaxin, Covishield is okay, or both fine, or it doesn't matter. Maybe like that. Whereas it depends on your country relations. Maybe like that. So US UK
Hello.
can tell and say
Yes,
that.
Dr. Pradeep. Just let us
And
finish
also,
with
madam,
Dr.
Yes.
Sanskruti.
See,
Yeah.
actually, the fact of the vaccine all over the world is that we don't have any data. The first thing.
Yes.
These all vaccines has been discovered a year or so before a year or so. And as you know that in the clinical studies and all, it takes 3 to 4 to 5 years to collect the data. We don't know how
Yes.
many days the antibody will last, how many days
Yes.
the potency, I mean the immune
Efficacy
system
will be
will work
there.
against the efficacy of the product will be there. We don't have time. We just have
Yes.
launched a year back, so how could we study?
Yes.
It is
So
true for
again, it is
almost
the time
all type
span,
of the
sir, is
vaccine.
too soon to
Yes.
study.
Yes.
It is
Yeah, that's true.
it is very difficult. It will take 10 years to understand whether the vaccine are active or not. See, when this hepatitis B vaccine has been launched by the Glaxo by name of Engerix, they have been studied approximately 10 years. Then they have launched this vaccine.
Yes.
Must be knowing this. Engerix was launched
Yes.
by SKF
Yes.
in
Yes, sir.
France, and later this SKF was taken over by Glaxo, and now it is a
Yes.
product of the Glaxo. Yes, I
Yes.
have worked in pharma marketing from last 15 years before entering into this academic. Yes,
Right,
so
sir.
we have the experience of that. I was working at that time when Engerix was launched in the market, and I know their
Okay.
strategy, what they have developed.
Wonderful,
Yes,
sir. Thank you
so
for
this
those
is the
insights.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the problem with the vaccine. We don't have any data. Whatever data we are giving, that is you don't know. We are just trial and hit.
Right.
Whether that is a Pfizer or that is a Moderna or that is Johnson or AstraZeneca or whatever it is. Both
Right,
are
sir. Right,
equal
sir.
level at present. Whatever I understand about this.
Correct, sir. Correct,
There
sir.
is no political issues, there is no geographical issues, there is nothing like that. But the
Right.
issues is only technology and science. It is a
Yes,
science
sir.
behind that. We don't know anything about the vaccine right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So the reason why I asked that question was people were also reluctant to take vaccination because of this reason that it was not tested well, and we wouldn't know whether this whatever vaccine we are taking will actually be enough to meet the requirements that we are currently facing. So the more knowledge you have, the more questions you will have. So people in the pharma sector itself, I mean, because I work in a pharma college and I also interact with a lot of the pharma professionals from the industry. So they themselves also mentioned that one thing is it could also be a strategy because now we are also hearing that those who have taken 2 doses of Covishield will now again have to take a booster dose. A third dose is coming into picture. I don't know if you've heard about this or no. And then we also have Sputnik, which is being offered, manufactured by Dr. Reddy's now. So again, there are questions on which one will be more efficient and which one will work more based on the symptoms that were generated once you take a vaccine.
Conference.
दिन भर कॉन्फ्रेंस और सेमिनार यही चलता रहता है क्या तुम्हारा?
Dr. Pradeep sir, can you please mute your mic? Yeah. So based on the results, yes. No problem, sir. Yeah, somebody was saying something.
Aarti here, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can I add on to the another perception? People are like hesitant to take the vaccine.
Yes, please,
Another
please.
perception
Yeah.
is that recently, government of India has said that a person who are willing to travel abroad can take the vaccine within a span of 1 month or 28 days. But whereas other people, those who stay in India, they have to take the vaccine after 80 or 90 days. So that again
Right.
creates a confusion, like why some people are allowed earlier and why some are not. And then again, that creates a confusion for uh, thinking about the potency and proving of the vaccine.
Very,
Yes,
very correct, ma'am. Yeah.
exactly.
True.
I was about to make a point. It is not only science and technology, but again, the availability of resources, it is HR, it is politics, obviously. So, as and when there is shortage of vaccination, people are making that in between time so huge. Earlier, it was just 20 days, and till that
Yes.
time, vaccine was available. And when it
Yeah.
was only for senior citizens, as
Right.
this age group was open till 40 years, the gap or whatever the became huge. Like the number of days
Yes.
in between the two doses, that became huge, and suddenly
Yes.
now they're like, it's okay if you don't take it after 6 months also. So
Yeah.
that is not about the vaccine. That is about your state policies or central government policies or whatever. That is too huge another topic. But then still,
Yes.
it is more being impacted on this thing. We had vaccination when we had to export it, but then we don't have it for our own people. So all
Right.
these happenings are related to the vaccine also. So
Yes.
that means it is effective, but it is not available for our own people. It is more like that.
Right. So there are different factors which affect our perception. Like there are some internal factors and there are external
Exactly.
factors.
Exactly.
So
So
this is one of such factor that we will be looking at shortly. So thank you for responding to the question. Let's move on. Yeah, so the factors affecting perception. Now we talked about so much about vaccine and why people are restrained, or since only one vaccine is available, they had no choice but to take it. But initially, when it was kept open, people also had a choice. Even now we have a choice, but because when you have to book your vaccine slot in that COVID app, it'll tell you in that particular center which vaccine is being administered, whether it is Covishield or Covaxin. I mean, till to that extent, yes, you still may have a choice, to exercise your choice. But once you reach the center on the designated date and time, you never know if the same vaccine is being supplied to that center or if a different vaccine is supplied. And then there you don't have a choice. Whatever is available will be administered to you. So I totally agree with what all of you were saying, that we really don't have a choice. Whatever is available is what we can take. And then yeah, so that is one of the factors. So let us look at the different factors which affect perception. So our perceptions are affected by the situations. They are affected by perceiver, that means ourselves, and also the target. That means what is it that we are perceiving about. So in the discussion that we just had, the target was the COVID-19 vaccine. Perceivers were all of us. We all had our different perceptions based on where we were located, how easy was it for us to get the vaccination, get the appointment for vaccination, and several other factors internally. How comfortable were we to even go and get the vaccine done for ourselves, and the situation around us. So even that will have a lot of impact, because see, imagine if you were in a locality where you were surrounded by new COVID cases reported every day, in the two waves that we had, versus a locality where there were very less number of cases. So that is a situation that you were a part of, and that will also have an impact on your decision of, how soon should you go in for a vaccination. So there are several factors that affect the perception of individuals. So there are different theories which talk about how these perceptions are formed. So person perception, it talks about forming opinion about others. Others doesn't necessarily mean people. It also means situations or decisions taken. So one theory, it's called as the attribution theory. which proposes that a particular behavior is attributed to a certain cause. Now, this cause could either be an internal, reason or an external reason that I was just referring to. So, the external factors could be factors which you really cannot control. Now, if the government has announced that yes, all of you have to mandatorily take a certain vaccine, we all have to abide by that. But then, if you have a choice, then you will exercise that choice. So that's an example of an external factor. Another external factor also could be the cost of the vaccine. So again, there are two ways that you can get the vaccine done. You can either register for the government PHCs, the primary healthcare centers which are offering this vaccination, where you don't have to pay any money. But versus if you are approaching a private medical facility, they are providing, but it's against a payment. So these are all external factors. Internal factors are our own perceptions and our own belief systems, our own thoughts about how good or bad is it. Taking a certain vaccination, is it needed at this point of time? Am I really required to take it at this point of time? How will it affect me personally in my work settings? Is it required? Now, as you said, some people who have to go abroad, for them it is inevitable. They have to make a decision and they have to go in for vaccination. But for others who have not planned anything like that, who are stay put at their respective places, there is no force on them. They still have a choice of when they would want to go and get it administered. And then there are determinants of attribution. One is distinctiveness. So these are all the attributes of the attribution theory. What are the determinants of this certain attributions? How do you make attribute that this is the reason why a particular decision has been made? Distinctiveness talks about an individual's behavior in different situations. Now, how does an individual behave when he is when he's put in a spot, like you have to give an answer for a certain happening in the house or in the organization, and versus when you're not put in a spot and you are the viewer and somebody else is going put in a spot, then how do you behave? What suggestions would you be giving? Will your behavior be different in different situations? So that is one of the determinants that is termed as distinctiveness. And then consensus. Now, what does it mean? It is a response of all the is the response of all the individuals same when faced with a similar situation. So, I mean, that's again a similar situation that all of us have been, witnessing, and we've been going through the pandemic and the resulting effects on our lifestyle. Completely, it has changed, and it has changed the lives of people to a large extent, some of which even maybe we even may not understand or notice, but it has made a lot of difference across sectors and across the not just our country but entire world. So we have witnessed all that. And then did all of us respond in the same way when we were faced with that situation? I'm sure couple of us, including me, even I was affected with COVID in the first wave itself. I was in home quarantine, and it was really very scary for me because at that point of time we never had any knowledge of what is it going to do to us internally, and how will it affect us finally. What are the implications that we may have to face once we are out of it. That was a psychological fear that all the people who went through this COVID had. In addition to that, there were also some social stigma that got attached to people who were affected. At least in the first wave, it was very rampant. By the time the second wave came, people were more receptive. People became more understanding. I mean, I'm not generalizing it. There could have been people or societies where it was also taken in a good spirit. But then we also cannot neglect that or ignore the fact that even this also happened in the first wave, where if somebody was detected with as COVID positive, they were put at bay. There was a label attached. The label was attached by the municipal authorities just to ensure that people around that house are aware that somebody in the house is affected with COVID. But then the people around gave it a completely different feeler to the inmates of the house, to the person himself or herself, and that made them feel even more bad. It was like a societal stigma that got attached to them. The moment they stepped out of the house, they were shown that okay, he or she is the one who got COVID, and just be careful and things like that. Versus there were others also who were very helpful, because when you are going through that kind of a trauma, when you get some emotional support, some mental support, that will really help us. So, I mean, in my case, I can proudly say that I really got a very good support from my organization, from the people, from my neighbors and people around me. But that was not the case with others. There were many of my acquaintances who got affected, but they were subjected to the social stigma. So consensus talks about the individual's response uh, when faced with similar situations. Different individuals' response when faced with a similar situation. So that will also help us, form our perception. And then the third determinant is consistency. Now this talks about that does the person respond the same way over time. So do you respond similarly in all situations? Let's say you are a very calm and composed person, and any meeting that you attend or any interaction that you have, your response is very measured, versus your response may be different in different situations based on whom you're interacting with and what is being discussed. So that is what is consistency all about. So these are the set of determinants of attribution. So in case you have any examples, any events that you would want to share which are related to these, the discussion that we had, you are open, you're welcome to share it.
Ma'am, distinctiveness and consistency, are these terms not in similar lines when a person is compared? Like a person will, if you change the situation, obviously the person will behave in a different way. And if you keep giving the same situation, a particular person, he would tend to behave in the same way. Matlab, if I have a certain way of getting angry or happy or something, or in a particular situation, you feel like that. So how can we, consensus is fine, matlab, like something happens, if it is a bad incident, all people behave like that. Nobody says that it should not have been done or whatever. But what about distinctiveness and consistency? Are they not kind of interrelated or on similar tones when a person is? Because I think they both talk of individual behavior.
Yeah,
Like,
very true.
give an
But there's
example.
very subtle. Yeah, there's a very subtle
Yeah.
difference between them. I mean, I understand the moment you talk about psychology or perception or anything related to human behavior,
Right.
there's an overlap of all these factors. No doubt about that.
Right.
So distinctiveness is an individual's behavior in different situations when he encounters or he comes across different situations. How does he behave? How similarly does he behave? And consistency is, does a person respond the same way over time? So it talks with respect to time is what it talks. Let's say if you're a new entrant into a job, freshly joined, your levels of enthusiasm to take up anything new will be very high, and you will be open to take up any work for that matter. But
Right.
over a period of time, like this was also discussed in a different way yesterday, where it was talked in terms of the kind of papers you handle, and suddenly you're given a different paper, completely unrelated. How do you take it? So this
Right.
is something which talks about that. If you're being offered something different, completely different from what you've been doing all this while, then how would you respond? Over a period of time, as a fresh entrant versus an experienced person with a 5 years experience or a 10 years experience or a 15 years experience, definitely your responses would change. So that is what that is how you'll have to look at it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So anything else that you would want to discuss, or can we move forward?
We can move, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I had one more question. Should vaccination be offered free of cost or charged? And I think that is something which we already discussed. How would your answer differ if you were, yeah, this is something which you may give your inputs on. If you were a health officer, if you were a social worker, if you are a vaccine manufacturer, and if you're just a citizen, then would your answer differ? You know, whether it should be a free of cost vaccine or should it be charged?
Yes, ma'am. Only I think vaccine manufacturer will say it should be charged. Rest all will
Mhm.
say.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly my answer. It should be free of cost for everybody, irrespective of the sector. Only difference being the health officers and those who are more exposed should be vaccinated earlier because they are in the front line. Only
Yes.
difference being of the time. It should be free of cost as a citizen, as a country, as a right. It is as a right. It should be given free of cost to everybody.
Okay. So how many of you have availed it free of cost? I mean, those who have taken the vaccine?
No, ma'am, I paid more amount because I took it to private. So no free schemes.
I took it free of cost, Covishield.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
In
good.
fact, the price
Uh,
was
Madam,
high
free,
at this time.
free vaccines are available only for medical practitioners.
No, and it is in the
Or
government setup, ma'am, not in the private.
No,
Okay, nowadays it is free of cost for
it is there.
everyone.
Yeah, in PHC, if you register and wait for your turn in a PHC, you will get it free of cost.
Yeah, PSC it is free of cost. Yes.
Yes.
it cannot be free of cost because it takes a lot of revenue to generate a vaccine.
Ma'am,
Sir,
we are
I don't think
doing
it can be
free
anytime.
Free of cost, that is free of cost to the citizens. Of course, the state governments pay for it. I mean, nothing is
Yes.
free. Somebody has to pay. So the state
Right.
government takes it from the central government and state government pays. And for the citizens of the state, it is free. So free means we are talking about ourselves. So we are not in the state government. So that's why it is
So
free
in
for
that
us.
same way, we can also conclude that we are paying the taxes and we are availing the vaccinations.
Hmm.
Yeah, to add on to both the points, ma'am,
Yes.
Sanima said that the government is already having contingency and emergency funds, and during this pandemic, we should make sure that it should go free to the individuals, because this is not something everyone would have expected. So it should be made free, and other funds that is necessary to be used must be used actually.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I just wanted to take your opinion about how do you feel, what should be the right way or what is the correct way of doing things. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so that's the reason why I deliberately put a vaccine manufacturer, because definitely they would want return for whatever efforts they are making. But all others would definitely agree for a free of cost vaccination drives. And somebody's audio is not muted yet. Yeah, I think Dr. Mayank. Okay. Okay, so then the moment we talk about the attributions and the determinants, there are also some scope for errors and biases which come up. So we all know that there is some bias which comes with every individual. It need not necessarily be a person-based bias. So let's see what are these errors or biases about. Fundamental attribution error. It is nothing but a tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal factors when making a judgment about the behavior of others. So here in this the fundamental attribution error, what happens is you tend to reduce the influence, or you tend to not reduce, underestimate is underrate the influence of the external factors, and then you think that it's all because of the internal factors. So you are overestimating the internal factors when you're making judgment about people's behavior. So example for that I mentioned is, in general we tend to, no, we doesn't means you and me. Generally what happens is people get blamed first and not the situations. So even again here in this case also, if you take the again the vaccination drives example, I mean, it was a point of blame for many people where they said, as also was discussed earlier a few minutes back, that vaccinations were available for exports, but they are not being available for internal utilization. So maybe at that point of time, the decision makers, they didn't think about the impact, or maybe they were not ready, or I don't know what were the reasons. But then just a second. Okay, so I mean, the blame game is anyway there, but then what has to be assessed is the situations also need to be assessed, and not just the people's decision, because they are players in a certain situation, and then based on whatever factors are affecting them, they make a certain decision. So that is good with respect to all the constraints that they face at a particular point of time. Then self-serving bias is another bias which comes into the into picture when we are talking about the attribution theory, which talks about the tendency for individuals to attribute their own successes to internal factors while putting the blame for failures on external factors. So a very classic example is that of students when they score a good grade in the exams, they end up attributing it to their own hard work. But then the same student, if he or she doesn't fare well, then they conveniently put it on somebody else. So if the exam is tough, whose fault is it? So who will they try to blame?
If it is a student, then obviously the teacher will be blamed.
Yeah. Or they will say the paper was very tough if it's a board exam kind of a situation where their respective teacher is not setting the paper. They will simply say somebody who didn't know the subject has set the paper was very tough, and all reasons will come out. So that's where the self-serving bias comes into picture. They for successes, they attribute it to their own skills or hard work, and for failures they blame the external factors. So yeah, these are the frequently used shortcuts in judging others. Selective perception, the halo effect, contrast effects, projection, and stereotyping. Again, as I'm telling you, these are nothing new, not new for all of us, because we also go through this. We also face all these, and we also make perceptions, form perceptions, based on these precincts. So selective perception, people selectively interpret what they see on the basis of their interests, background, experience, and attitudes. So let's say if I suddenly show you a picture of a triangle with many triangles within it, and then I ask you to make an interpretation. Will the interpretation be different from each one of you? Will all of you interpret it the same way?
Repeat, ma'am, the question, please.
I said if I show you a picture of a triangle, or let's say a square with lot of squares and rectangles within that big square, and then ask you to give me an interpretation of what do you think is this picture trying to tell us. Can you interpret this picture? I
Yeah, the
asked you whether
interpretation will be different from
yes.
person to person. It is going to vary, ma'am.
Yes, the interpretation will definitely be different based on on the background that we come from. Let's say if it's a mathematician who's looking at that picture, he may come out with a different interpretation versus a marketeer. He may come with his own interpretation, and a psychologist will again look at it from a different point of view. So selective perception talks about people selectively interpreting what they see on the basis of their own interests, their background, their experiences, and their attitudes. And then the second one is the halo effect. The halo effect is all about drawing a general impression about an individual on the basis of a single characteristic. Now the single characteristic could be, let's say we have a very intelligent student in the class, who's always answering all the questions of the faculty in all the subjects. So there's a general impression that is made about that student that he is good at everything that that we give him, which may not be the case. Maybe he's a very studious child and he does well with respect to studies, but then he may not be so in maybe any group activities that are assigned to him. But the halo effect talks about based on one particular trait, people tend to make a general impression about an individual. So it's not a holistic impression, it's a single trait based on single characteristic based on which you try to make a generalized impression.
Ma'am, can I give an example to this?
Yeah, yes, please. You're most welcome, please.
Ma'am, generally when people have good higher packages, people generally assume that they must be happy. They don't. They say कि इसको क्या problem होगा?
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
Sushant Singh Rajput's case, nobody is still believing that he's gone. Nobody still believes why he would not have been in depression, or there is a school of thought this way also, that what made him do this, he can't do this, so like that. So you never really know what goes on inside somebody, irrespective of having, like Deepika Padukone also, anybody would think why would she have any point to get depressed, but then she got clinical depression. So that is that I think the halo effect is mostly clouding us in very many times, and in terms of especially these media and glamour lines, that is true.
Yes.
We tend to judge or have a perception, something like that. In terms of pandemic also, there are very many serial actors and writers who we think they all have money, irrespective of if you're writing or acting or you are a cameraman or whatever. So
right.
But then they are coming out and saying that it is all hand to mouth now. We are not getting projects. We don't have money. All our savings have been exhausted. So that is, I think, is an example of halo effect.
Yes. Very. Thank you, ma'am, for giving that example, Dr. Sanskruti. And what I would say is that all of us also have been, subject to this at one point of time or the other. Let's say during the pandemic, sadly, many of our friends or neighbors must have, not sure, they may not have their jobs now. Some of them, were had to leave because of the company policy. There were also some layouts in the software companies. So to the acquaintances that I have, I've known that some of them are jobless now. Now they are searching for a job. So just the fact that you still hold a job also is looked at, in the same way, like how you were talking about depression, that you can never imagine. So they think that just because you are having a job and you're earning money, there's nothing that that is lacking in your life. But that's not the only point, right? Like as you correctly said, money is not the only thing. You are working, you still have a job and you still have earning capacity, but then the toil that goes behind, to complete the job also is not looked at.
Also, ma'am, in this, if people are having jobs also, there have been pay cuts to an extent of 50%. So people are like, at least you have a job. But then one who works knows that effort is 100%, but then you're getting only 50%. So that is also equally frustrating.
Yes.
So if you don't have a job, people acknowledge it, or it's a said problem. You can't go on everywhere and say that, oh, my salary has been cut by 50% or whatever. And that to work has become 24/7 because of work from home. So that is also a point.
The me time is gone now. It's all the organization time. So that's what I was telling when I said now we are working from 7 to 7, 9, whenever there's a call, we are supposed to take it and we are supposed to send a file or document that is being asked for. So so halo effect also is there, with all the individuals, because as I said in this example that we just discussed, just because you're having a job doesn't mean that you are doing great. You may be a shade better than others, but then just to be a shade better than others, you're going through your own journey. You're going through your own turmoil. Okay, so thank you for that example, ma'am. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I would request all of you to contribute. So wherever you have such examples, it will actually liven up the session, and that will be helpful for all of us learning from each other. And then the next one is the contrast effects, where evaluation of a person's characteristics that are affected by comparisons with other people recently encountered who rank higher or lower on the same characteristics. So here we can talk about different other parameters, like it could be the stature, the position that you hold in an organization. Maybe you recently talked to another colleague from a different organization who's on the same ranking, but then how is how are their perks, and how are they being treated there, is how is it different from what you're going through at your current organization. This is from a work perspective, but on an individual perspective it could be anything, like somebody whom you met recently and who's very tall, or very hefty, or very beautiful. So you tend to compare on those characteristics also, and then you make a perception, you make an impression. Somebody is on not on mute. I can hear some noise. Now I can hear a discussion also. One second. Okay. And then projection, it's all about attributing one's own characteristics to other people. This is like, if you are if you are fair in all your decisions or discussions, you expect everyone else also to be the same with you. So that is where you are trying to project your own characteristics to other people, which may or may not be totally true. But then you tend to do that because whatever thought process you have, normally till you reach a certain years of experience in your career, people normally think that everybody around is thinking about their good also. I mean, but that means people who's my neighbor or who's my colleague in an organization, whenever they make a decision, or whenever they are proposing something, they'll also take my good into account, which need not necessarily be true. But then that's a point in projection. So they tend to project whatever are their own characteristics to other people, attributing one's own characteristics to other people. And then stereotyping, I think this is something which is known across, and it has been known for ages now. Judging someone on the basis of one's perception of the group to which that person belongs to. So it could be with respect to an ethnic group, with respect to a particular country. Like if you are talking about a country like US, there are people from different countries. So the moment they talk about Indians or different country people, or it could be a religion-based identification and stereotyping also. So this is again prevalent all over. Any examples that you would want to share?
Ma'am, is stereotyping always in a negative sense? Like I will tell you a stereotype that goes on. Like Punjabis are always with no offense to anybody, let me clear this. It's just a perception. Like Punjabis are very celebrating or very colorful, or they're very helpful.
Yes.
And South Indians are very intelligent, and Bengalis eat only fish 3 times. So these are some something like that. Gujaratis are very business minded. They make money all the time.
Right,
So,
right.
Kashmiris are always beautiful.
It cannot always be negative. It can also be positive. So yeah, now you see so many Indians leading the good companies across. Whether it's a health sector or an IT sector. So there also, they recognize that, oh, he's an Indian. Even that company is having an Indian CEO, and they're doing extremely well. So it need not necessarily be in a negative sense. Yes, it could also be in a positive sense. But stereotyping is prevalent. So that is what we wanted to talk about.
So many times it so happens that in a mixed group, all these people, they have to. I've seen Bengalis explain that we do not eat fish daily, something like that. So we have a perception that, okay, you do this like that in a certain similar way.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes,
ma'am,
yes, yes.
ma'am, please
Yeah,
quote
please.
the example of projection.
Pardon? I hear two
Ma'am,
people. Is it Bharti Tiwari or Dr. Bharti? Who's talking now?
I have
Yeah.
unmuted. I have asked my name, ma'am. Bharti Tiwari ma'am is talking. That's why I stopped myself.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, what I am trying to say, ma'am, that most of times, maybe stereotyping may not have can be applied for both positive and negative sense, but in organizational perspective, it goes maximum in a negative sense.
Yes.
Positive sense of stereotyping, yeah, it can happen as ma'am has told, but very uncommon. The word stereotype has a stereotype in itself in the negative sense.
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay.
agree. Nobody will say that, oh, she's always hardworking, oh, she's always dedicated. Nobody will say stereotype in that ways.
Yeah. True.
Even
So
if you do, stereotyping is
yes.
always. I mean, if workplace, if I can give example of a like being a female, I love to
Yes.
wear saris. So
Yeah.
nobody wants or likes to wear saris in my particular workplace, but I wear, like being a professor. So I get
Yes.
stereotype in that sense. You know
Okay.
what? So earlier when I used to go, I was new to the organization. People were like, "Aaj kya hai? Is it your birthday? Is it your anniversary? Is it this? Is it that?" So generally they came to know. So the stereotype it with the sari. So nobody sees my
Right.
work. I mean that takes a back seat. Stereotyping
Yeah.
takes over. I mean, of
Right.
course, right, like that.
Yeah, that's another aspect. Yeah, very interesting, but very true. People. I
Yes,
mean, we
ma'am.
can go on with examples on stereotyping, and in the office setup, it's lot more. Any examples uh, from the gentleman in the course, sir, from your side on stereotyping? Okay, that's all right. And so that was the perception theory we looked at, the person perception theory. And then the second one that I wanted to discuss was the cognitive dissonance theory. Now, this is a theory, a theory in social psychology, which refers to the mental conflict that occurs when a person's behaviors and beliefs are not in alignment. This theory was proposed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1957. It was a book that he published. And this also happens a lot in organizations. The examples that I have mentioned here are not necessarily from the organization point of view. They are general examples that are mentioned here. So cognitive dissonance occurs when we grow up with some beliefs ingrained in us, some belief systems ingrained in us, and then a particular situation you come across where you will have to exactly behave opposite of the beliefs that you have all you have been following all this while. So that is when a cognitive dissonance occurs and you are lost between what is right and what has to be done, though you know that what you are expected to do is not really the correct not correct as per your own belief system, but you will have to anyway administer or anyway execute that particular task. So that is what is meant by cognitive dissonance and the theory related to that. So the examples of situations where cognitive dissonance can occur, I mean, examples for us to easily understand what is cognitive dissonance is all about is, people smoke despite being aware that smoking may lead to cancer, it may lead to adverse health effects because of the usage of tobacco, and the warning is very explicitly put on the box. It is displayed everywhere in the public places also, it is displayed, but despite knowing it, that means knowing that it is not good for them, they still continue to engage or can continue to smoke. So that is an example of cognitive dissonance. Similarly, trying to promote a behavior, like dieting or doing a regular exercise or doing meditation, but when that person or himself or herself are actually not practicing the behavior that they're trying to promote. And then telling a lie despite the person thinking of themselves as being honest. So in certain situations, maybe you are forced to tell a lie, although you yourself think that you are an honest person and you can never lie. Purchasing a new car that is not fuel efficient when you are claiming that you are an environmentally conscious person, and then projecting yourself as an animal lover but then also eating meat. So these are certain examples of cognitive dissonance. So here I wanted to ask you if there are any situations that you have come across where you were put in a fix based on your belief system versus the activity that you had to undertake. Any experiences that you can share?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Dr. Sanskruti.
Ma'am, believing in sustainability, but still online shopping for clothes. I know that I don't need so much, but then still end up ordering so much. So like that.
Okay, very nice, very good example.
Like a day-to-day example. Like I know it is,
Right.
but then if a pop-up comes or if a discount offer comes,
Yes.
I somehow tend to convince myself. In the first place, I was not needing it. Then I
Right.
saw it, and then it stays, and then it gives an extra discount if you after some
Yes.
days. More 10%, your additional, or use this coupon code or something. So knowing
Right,
that
right.
I do not have, I mean, I have clothes, and the situation is such that all these clothes we are already having, that is not only not being used, but still
Yes.
ordering because the offer or the discount or whatever is very alluring, and it's a steal deal. Knowing that.
Right, right, right. Thank you,
And yeah,
ma'am.
can I
Thank you.
come in,
Yes.
ma'am?
Yes, Dr.
Yeah.
Morlin, please.
Yeah. In the context of our business school,
Yeah.
I find myself that I need to, treat the students equally because they are business students, they are MBA graduates, they are going to be future managers. But at
Yes, sir.
times I find, though I know that I need to treat them on the same level, but some students get more, closer affinity to me. As a result, I also judge on the basis of the closeness that I have.
Yes.
Though I know that I should not, but
Correct, sir.
it happens in the normal circumstances of our dealing.
Yes, sir. Very true. I think that holds good for all the teachers around out here. That you end up judging students based on their affinity and the work affinity that you have with them.
But then, ma'am, will this not come under biasness? Because you tend to behave in a certain way for certain people, and then you're not for.
Yeah, it is a bias, Dr. Sanskruti, but when we are talking it in terms of cognitive dissonance, what sir is trying to indicate is we are expected to be neutral to all students as faculty. Expectation from us, or we also think that I should be non-partial to everybody, all my
Right.
students.
Right.
But then eventually it may so happen that because of some assistance that you get, or as I said, work related affinity that is developed, you
Right.
end up, it's not that you do it voluntarily, but you tend to. So that is where the cognitive dissonance comes into picture.
Right. Right.
Yeah, which I feel is holds good for all the all the teachers here, or whether they are college professors or school teachers. I think this is something which is imperative to all of us. Yeah. Any other examples that anybody would want to share?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Professor Surbi. I want to
Yes,
share
ma'am.
an example with respect to parenting also. Each
Yeah.
day we may decide not to scold the kids and discipline them, but
Yes.
in the course of the day, the reactions which we are getting we end up doing the same thing again and again. So I think that
Yes.
will also fall under the mental conflict where we decide each day not to scold them and not to discipline them in certain manners, but we end up doing it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Again, very relatable, and I'm sure everyone, all the parents here must be going through this if they are
Yes,
actually checking on their kids. Yes, ma'am. Very true. Yeah. Very relatable.
yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Also,
Yes.
ma'am, one
Yes.
example that we scold
Yes, ma'am.
we scold people who we love the most or we get angry. So that's
Yes.
extreme behavior.
Pardon. That is.
That is extreme behavior. Like you scold because you love somebody.
Yeah, that is
That can
true.
be a parent child, that can be a husband wife, that can be a sister, brother, whatever.
Yes.
Friend also. But then when we are concerned about somebody, we put it in a way, like in an angry way or scolding way or whatever, because we love somebody. That is also cognitive dissonance, I think.
Yeah, that is what
But
Dr. Surabhi
wherein
also
lies
was
the
mentioning.
conflict? Cognitive dissonance theory is basically where there is a mental conflict. Knowingly
Yes.
you are doing wrong, but you are doing that. As far as my
Yes.
understanding goes.
Yes, so
Yes.
wrong is the reaction, how you're putting it. If you love somebody, you should tell it in a very loving way, but then that sometimes doesn't work. So you kind of, yeah, so you kind of hurt the other person to make him or her realize that this is
Yes.
so, and then there is a change in behavior. So, like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, this is Bhavna.
Yes, Dr. Bhavna. Yes.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask one thing. Like, we are shifting ourselves to new normal, that is digitalization. Uh,
Yes.
all our kids are working on this online platform.
Yes.
They are using mobile or laptop very often. Approximately
Yeah.
whole day they are busy with these things, gadgets.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We very well know कि these things are going to cause, they have their negative consequences. So
Yeah.
will it come under projecting like cognitive dissonance?
Uh, wow. Actually, I think it is that is how we are looking at. See, all these years, all this while, at least till March last year,
Yes.
we would scold the kids if they had phones in their hands. We would not give them laptop for a long time. We would give them a restricted time and say only 1 hour you can use, and then you cannot touch the laptop or the system. Versus now we have to give them the phone because the messages about class comes on a WhatsApp group, and if you are working, you yourself will have lots of groups where you will have to answer. So that made a few houses give a phone to the kid and also a laptop to the kid, which was just not wanted to be done by the parents. Yes, that also will be an example, ma'am. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello,
Thank you.
ma'am. This is
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, Dr.
Yes.
Ronak had to add something. Yes, Dr. Ronak.
Yes, ma'am. So this is Rana Gupta, and I just wanted to add because this conflict or what I was understanding through the examples. So basically, just I wanted to add that it happens because of the situational benefits. So just
Huh.
like if we can see that in the first example you have written like smoking despite being aware of adverse effects. So although
Yes.
I don't smoke, but whenever I'm in a group of my friends or colleagues, and when they smoke, so when you will ask them, so that is the response is just like that. Yes, leave it for now, and just I need to relax, right? So while it is the case of shopping or something kind of that, so there are situational benefits in that particular context that we see, and then we ignore the what is the generalization of that, what I can say, the effect, right? So this
Right,
could
sir.
be one.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Um, yeah. So one more example generally could be like a person, he grows up all his life, with a belief system that I should not do anything wrong, or I should not take a bribe, or I should not sign a paper which I'm not supposed to, which is not ethically correct. but in the office space, he faces such a situation where he has to sign. He is a signatory. He is the authorized person who has to sign in a document, and then he is put in a spot by his superiors and peers under pressure to sign a document. So that is again that will again be an example for this cognitive dissonance, where in principle he is against all that, but then he is being forced to sign a paper or do something which he he's not at all comfortable with, and his belief system says that it is completely wrong. So I mean, yeah, these are the examples, and yeah, I hope that all of you have understood what is cognitive dissonance all about, and how we encounter such situations also in our day-to-day lives. Thanks to the participants that they gave us beautiful examples, including the usage of mobile phones and gadgets by the children now. So let's move on. So now coming to what is the relation between these perceptions and the individual decision making. Decisions are made whenever there's a need for decision, and how does that come up? When you see that there's something that has to be fixed or something has to be decided. So basically a problem. What is a problem? It's a perceived discrepancy between the current state of affairs and a desired state. It could be anything, it could be with respect to syllabus completion, for example, in the context of teaching, with respect to the exams being scheduled on time as per the almanac, and they not being scheduled. I mean, this was the case in the last year when suddenly we had to shut down in March, and I think all the universities and institutions could not conduct any exams because we didn't know what we were going through and how we would address that first, and once that settled, only then we everything was rolled out, and then they said yes, now we have to complete the exams and conduct the exams. So that was a problem, a perceived discrepancy. It was a discrepancy between the then current affairs and the desired state. Desired state was the students should have completed their exams on time and moved on in their academic pursuit. Decisions are the choices made from among the alternatives developed from data which is perceived as relevant. So perceived is put in italics, so that it talks about how you perceive the data, how you perceive which data is relevant. So choices are made from amongst the alternatives developed from the data which is perceived as relevant. So based on the data that has been perceived as relevant, you make a choice of addressing a particular problem. Rational decision making model, this talks about how individuals should behave in order to maximize an outcome. So outcome here is a decision. So rationally, when you make a decision, we are expected to have a decision which will give us a maximum output, maximize the outcome. And then as all models have assumptions, this model also has assumptions which are mentioned like this. Problem clarity, which means the problem is very clear, and everybody who has to discuss and decide about the problem has the same knowledge and understanding about the problem, which again may not be the case because we are talking about perception. People may have different perceptions about the same issue. But then the assumption is that it's very clear, the problem is clear. And then the second assumption is known options. That means the alternatives to address the problem are all known. Again, they are known to everybody. And then the third assumption is clear preferences and constant preferences. So all the stakeholders know what are the preferred solutions, and they also are aware of what should be why should these preferred solutions be taken, and what is the need for such constant preferences of those desired outcomes or solutions. And then the next assumption is no time or cost constraints. So which talks about there's no time limit, and there's no cost wise also there are no implications, and it is equal. The cost is equal amongst the alternatives. No implications doesn't mean there's no cost. It means that any alternative that they have that they have to make a decision about is costing the same. That means cost-wise they are all equal, and also the time frame also is similar. And then maximum payoff. So, I mean, these are the assumptions on which the rational decision making model is based on. Okay, so what are the steps in rational decision making model? First of all, a problem statement. A problem needs to be defined. What is the problem? And then the decision making criteria have to be identified, and these criteria have to be weighted. That means you'll have to prioritize on which is more important and which is not that important, and then based on these set of data available, you develop alternatives, and then again the alternatives also are evaluated, and then the best alternative is selected. So if I can give you an example here, I mean, recently we had a visit by our department secretary, and then the discussion also talked about how the department also was able to handle the COVID pandemic, and how they were able to make the remdesivir available. The injection that was being given to the patients affected with COVID, how did they manage to make it available? So the problem, the identified problem was not COVID, it was the supply chain part. How are they able to manage the supply chain? How they have to manage the supply chain to ensure that the drug is made available to the required people at the right time. So if that is defined as a problem, so I'm just giving you an example so that you will relate with it better, in a better way, and more so because COVID has been a recent experience. So I'm just taking an example from the same situation. And then identify the decision criteria. Now, decision criteria obviously will be cost will be one of the criteria, distance will be another criteria, and then availability will be another criteria. Let's say if that particular medicine is not available in India, if it is not an indigenous one, then the imports also have to be looked at, the companies have to be reached out, and then special orders had to be placed with them so that the supplies were made enough for an entire nation. We are talking about such a big nation and such huge population. So the decision criteria will have to consider all these factors, right from the availability, cost, the supplier, the time taken to get the supply, the distance that the medicine has to cover, the conditions under which the medicine has to be transported. I mean, that for conditions we can take, if vaccines are getting transported, again they have to be transported at a certain temperature. So it will be a cold storage based transport vehicles that have to be used for that. So all these will form the decision criteria, and then allocate weights to the criteria. So based on which is more difficult, that will get the heaviest weight. So let's say if it's an import that has to happen, and we are expecting to get the medicine supply from outside, that is